And we are live. What's going on, YouTube? And welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's Kevin Forte, and today we have a very exciting live stream for game one of the second round for the Stanley Cup playoffs. We have the Carolina Hurricanes hosting the New Jersey Devils in Raleighwood tonight. It's been an interesting first two periods as a 2-0 lead for the Hurricanes now has us at a 3-1 lead for the Hurricanes going into the second intermission. To start the game, Carolina had two early goals. And at one point in the game, I think at the end of the first period, they were out shooting the Devils 10-1. So Carolina came out with a force to start this hockey game. Goals by Brett Pesce, Seth Jarvis, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Nathan Bastian got on the board to give the Devils a little bit of hope going into the third period, but a really good start for Carolina tonight. I want to know your guys' thoughts. You guys got to give me updates on what happened so far because I'm not really sure. So you guys got to, I think I give a pretty good peripheral, but I want to know what you guys think. Yeah, so let me know what happened so far. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the chat. Surreal, Urban, Zach. What's going on, guys? Yeah, I'm a New York sports fan. Yes, I am. Mets, Jets, Islanders. Now, I think what's interesting in the aftermath of the Islanders series. So after game 2, right? This weird Scott Mayfield high stick that wasn't called, none of the officials from that game will be in for the rest of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Just saying. Of course, Zach. Yeah, I'm not a Yankees fan. No way. No Yankee fans here. Yeah, right now it's 3-1 Carolina, and that's right. Urban's right. 16-8 is the shots. No, so Urban, so in game 2 of the Islanders Hurricane series, of course, there was the infamous non-call on Scott Mayfield in overtime. Carolina ended up scoring the goal in overtime in game 2 that led to the Hurricanes taking that 2-0 series lead. I'm not sure about the Wild Star series officials, but I know the officials from that game 2 in the Islanders Carolina series will be done for the remainder of the postseason. So take with that what you will. But that's call it an excuse, call it whatever you want, but that is what it is. What's your favorite ice cream? That's a great question. Mint chocolate chip. That is my go-to. What's going on, Luis? Yeah, so they're talking about right now how the Devils, because they're not on their A game, their inability to adapt is really, really a problem. And I think that's true. I think PK Subban, for the first time in his career, is actually right. But it definitely hasn't been a good start for the Hurricane for the Devils for sure. It happens. This is what happens though. Maybe not in game 1, but I was expecting Carolina to throw a punch in this series. The question is, how are the Devils going to respond? That's really what this is going to come down to in this series. How do the Devils respond to a little bit of adversity? They were able to do it in the first round. They have to be able to do it again here in the second. I'm not that concerned. I think the Devils are going to make this a series, but definitely just not a great first game 1 for them. Just a different opponent. It's definitely different than what they played against in the Rangers. Yep, I agree, Urban. I think Carolina's defense is very underrated. I think Florida's we're seeing is very underrated as well, but Carolina's defense, I said it in my preview. I said Dougie Hamilton, Brett Pesce, and John Marino, Jonas Siegenthaler, that group. Oh no, my God. I can't believe I just did that, guys. Long day. No, the Hurricanes blue line, Jacob Slavin, Brent Burns really impressed me. For anybody that thinks Brent Burns is gonna, limp off into the sunset, nah, he's a really, really good defenseman. Brent Burns, Brett Pesci, and Jacob Slavin. Those three guys on that defense, really, really talented. The Devils have a good defense as well. I think it's a little bit more by committee. But, yeah, Urban, yeah, I was really impressed when I saw him in person and even in the playoff games. I was like, "Damn, they can't get any pucks past Brent Burns." He has not missed a step. I don't know what happened in San Jose. I think that whole team just collapsed, but yeah, Brent Burns is still Brent Burns for anybody that was worried about that. Yeah, and this is what I talked about. It's real in my preview. I'm wearing the Devils shirt today for my Devils fans because there's a bunch of you here, but I gotta say, the way Carolina plays, it's gonna be easier for Carolina to dictate the play than the Devils trying to do what they want to do. And I think that's kind of showing up right now in the first game. Yeah, that was a great trade by Chuck. Yeah, that was by Chuck Fletcher, right? And I think he's talking about how Brent Burns was actually a part of the Minnesota Wild back in the day. Yep. Do you think the Leafs bounce back? Yeah, I think they will. What's going on? What's going on, Shaka? Welcome to the chat. I have to say, the one thing I'm concerned about for the Leafs right now is that the Bennett, Cousins, Kachuk line. Um, they were a problem for Boston in the first round, and Jim Montgomery said as much after game 7 that his guys just weren't able to keep up with Nick Cousins, Kachuk, and Bennett on the forecheck. There were points during that game in the third period that I saw last night where we were seeing something very, very similar. And I don't know. It's not something that I think that the Leafs can't overcome, but it is something that we're seeing right now is an issue. Also, tonight is game 1 of the Edmonton Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. That's going to be another really good game. I'm excited for that one. I'm kind of cheering on both of these teams. Either way, it's a win for me because I picked Edmonton to go to the conference final and actually go to the cup final. So I'm happy if Edmonton wins. Also, I got to be honest, guys. I am an American, so I have that American bias. I would like to see Vegas move on and potentially go to the cup final. I'd like to see an American team in there. Call me a patriot, call me whatever, but the truth is I'd probably rather see an American team win the Stanley Cup again this year, but that's my own bias. I think that's going to be a really good series, though. I hate to say it, though, if Jake Ottinger, I mean, he didn't play that well last night, but if Jake Ottinger plays the way he points in the first round, um, I, Dallas might be able to get all the way to the cup final, depending on how things go. And I just want to put it out there as my PSA for all the haters out there in my playoff preview for the Kraken Dallas Star series, I put Seattle having a better forward depth than Dallas, and people freaked out. You know nothing about hockey. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why they keep betting against me, man. I really don't. 5 different goals from the Seattle Kraken from 5 different players, and Dallas had 4 goals from one player. You tell me in game 1 who had better scoring depth. Call me crazy, call me whatever you want to call me. I was right about game 1. You tell me where I'm wrong. You tell me where I'm wrong, Stars fans. So anyway, yeah, so they're talking to McDavid here, getting ready for game number 1. Um, yeah, Pavelski scored 4 and they lose. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, Matthews needs to get going. That whole group has to get going. I want to see. I mean, honestly, you need to see a little more from Nylander. You need to see a little bit more from Marner. You need to see a little more from JT. He did score the big goal in game 6, but you need to see more from those guys. I expect a little bit more from that group if they're going to really do this. If they're really going to go on a cup run, you got to beat Carolina. I mean, I know Luis, I don't know if he's still in here, but let's be honest. If you want to win the Stanley Cup, these are the kind of teams you have to go against, right? So Everybody said I was crazy. Seattle Kraken, they can't score goals. The Krakens, man, I heard it all. And they're all eating crow right now because last night, for game one at the very least, I was right, man. I was right. I mean, that's it, man. Leave it at that. Yeah, I think Urban, when you consider who's out in the first round, it's probably a little easier. That's why people forget just how hard it is to get past the first round. I don't think people realize that. Like, from night one of the NHL season, there's a 50% chance that you make the playoffs, right? 16 teams make it in, 16 teams don't. Then from there, 8 of those 16 teams will move on to the second round, which means the first game of the season, you have to get a 50% chance coin flip to make the playoffs, 50% chance coin flip to get to the second round. It's a 50% coin flip, and you need that to land on heads or tails every single time. It's a lot, even with your best effort. So I don't think people realize that. Like, at this point, there are only 8 teams left out of a 32 team NHL. There's a quarter of the league left. So getting to the first round in itself is an accomplishment. Getting deeper is really, really tough. It is way harder than people really, I think, can grasp or understand. But yeah, I mean, you look at Boston, Tampa, Washington missing the playoffs, Pittsburgh missing the playoffs, St. Louis missing the playoffs, Chicago. You know, a lot of the markets that were kind of used to always making the playoffs and doing well, that was not the case this year. Yeah, Shaka brings up a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, the Sharks have missed the playoffs for 4 straight seasons now. And remember, they were complaining, "Oh, we haven't won a cup yet. We keep getting to the conference finals." And, they weren't satisfied with that, right? Which is fine. I get it, right? They were going to the conference finals, going on some deep runs, but now they haven't even made the playoffs in 4 years, right? So, it's one of those things where I totally get it, but it's again, that's how the sport works sometimes, right? You got to appreciate when your team makes the playoffs. That is very true. What's going on, PJ? Welcome to the chat. Yeah, so real. I hope the Devils do make this a game. I hope they get an early goal just to keep things interesting. Carolina, the problem is, and I've seen this every time the Islanders play the Hurricanes. If Carolina is up by a goal or two going into the third period, it's a wrap, man. Like, this is a really good hockey team at shutting down their opponent. They make it so difficult to get any momentum. Um, but we'll see. So the third period is about to be underway. Um, yeah, this is going to be an interesting situation. Now, I don't even know who started for Carolina tonight. Was it Anderson? I assume that Freddie Anderson played, but yeah, Freddie Anderson's in. Okay. Yeah, Shaka. Yeah, we're going to be here for the rest of the third period, and I'm going to call it a night. So the rest of the third period. Yeah, thank you for joining us, Shaka. And he brings up a quote. Would you rather always be in the hunt, even if you never win at all, or be a bottom feeder and avoid the heartbreak? That's a really good point, Shaka. And I got to be honest, I think I think being the bottom feeder and avoiding the heartbreak is probably the easier one to stomach, right? When you always have the expectations that this is the year and this is the year, and then you fall flat, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah. Again, the problem is when you have that heartbreak. Like, I remember in 2020 and 2021, the Islanders went to the conference finals against Tampa, took them to game 7 both times, right? That was tough, man. I got to admit, back-to-back years of losing 1-0 in game 7, on a shorthanded goal nonetheless, like, those are the kind of things that, like, that happened 3 years ago, and I still remember that. Like, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, "Oh, man," like, that leaves a knot in your stomach for a really, really long time, you know? I'm happy they went on those runs. They gained respect around the league. They gained respect from Tampa. At the end of the day, though, you didn't win a cup, so everybody kind of forgets, you know? Yeah, Carolina, when leading after the second period, is 35, 1, and 4. So they've won 35 of 40 games where they're leading after the second period. And that's all the Islander games I've seen. Carolina just really buys into that system. It's like it is ridiculous how good they are, especially in the third period when they're trying to lock down a lead. It's tough. But the Devils have the offense and the speed to give themselves opportunities. So I'm definitely not counting them out, but just I know how Carolina is. This is going to be a tough task here for the Devils in the third period. Yo, we got a super chat here from TJ, $2.79 Canadian. Carolina to the Stanley Cup Finals. I hate to say it, I think in the dark horse situation right now, I'm looking at Dallas and Carolina as your Stanley Cup final. I don't want to see it, but I do think it is very possible. I do. Oh, they're playing Sweet Caroline. Welcome to the chat, Wayne. Thanks, Dad, for joining in. He's an Islander fan, and yeah, I gotta say, I hate to say it, the Truba hit, it wasn't the typical Truba hit. Um, in my opinion, honestly, I think it was. I mean, it was definitely a penalty, but it's the irony for the Devils is Scott Stevens and Ken Danico laid similar hits in the 90s, and today they complain that they laid it on their player. So, I mean, obviously it was a different era, it was a different time, but I'm a little more okay with that hit. I think one of Truba's cleaner hits that he's thrown, but the problem is it's Jacob Truba. It's that nameplate on the back, and I got to be honest, he's known to lay hits that are very, very questionable and towing the line. But great question though. Thank you, Dad, for joining in. Yeah, I hate to say it, I agree. I think Timo Meyer put his head down. He didn't know who was on the ice. I mean, I don't know. And the fact that Meyer played like within a couple of minutes after that, I think he was okay. I think he just got stung up. So game 1 in Vegas tonight. That's going to be sick. I definitely have to watch some of that game. I won't be live streaming that though, guys. I'm tired. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. I'm pretty beat, but I definitely will stay for the rest of this third period. Stop it, PJ. Stop it. We do not want Daryl Sutter. The Islanders do not. I would rather Lane Lambert than Daryl Sutter. But I think it's a win for the Flames getting rid of him. I think it's going to be good for that group. You know, for guys like Huberto, Kadri, Peltier in particular, even Markstrom. I think Markstrom's going to have a bounce back season next year. Yeah, Daryl Sutter for GM. Yeah, that's a good one, PJ. You know, I'd almost say at this point, this is where you'd want the Devils to maybe get a little bit like aggressive and show a little grit, sandpaper. But this is, I don't really think they have that ability to even do that if they wanted to. You know, I think seeing Hischier win the Selkie, that would be pretty cool. I have to admit, if he won the Selkie and Hughes won the Lady Bing, he took one penalty all season. That's pretty incredible. That's impressive. But that's how Hughes plays. He's a clean player. He doesn't get himself into too much trouble. Carolina guy fell. I mean, I had Jets versus Bruins final. Ooh, PJ. Yeah, Urban. Yeah, I don't think anybody's brackets is going to be good. Honestly, I'm mine shot. I had I had nobody in the Eastern Conference, and in the West, I had Vegas, Edmonton. Vegas, Edmonton. I thought Minnesota would go, and I had Colorado. Yeah, so I shit the bed this year for my bracket challenge. Good job, Luis. You got 5 of the 8 picks. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Good stuff, man. Yeah, if Carolina scores here, this is probably it. Ooh, big hit. Oh, so Vanacek is in for the Devils. Interesting. I didn't know that. Why did the Devils do that? Did they pull a Kira Schmidt? What happened there? Huh. So they did pull him. Wow. I did not know that. Wow. So Akira Schmidt got pulled. Wow. Okay. Oh no. Uh-oh. There you go. I have to say, Carolina's home jerseys they're wearing for the playoffs this year, man, that's a beautiful jersey. I hope they never get rid of that. I think they will, but that is such a beautiful jersey, man. Oh, yeah, it seems like Devil. I could see a goal here very soon because I think right now the Devils are pushing a little bit, and there seems like Carolina's kind of getting some odd man rushes. It's just if Carolina can score on them or not, but Carolina's getting some chances here. The Devils are being very, very aggressive. Yo, thank you for the super chat from PJ. $7 Canadian. Florida finished with one less point than the Flames and still made the playoffs. Do you think the NHL should change things up? Maybe 1 through 16. PJ, I've been preaching, you're preaching to the choir. I've been saying that since we were talking at the trade deadline. I would love to see the 1 through 16 come back. I understand they want rivalries and things like that, but I got to admit, the 1 through 16, that would be kind of nice. But again, that's also when the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference have their kind of dips and bounds, you see teams kind of in that situation, right? Or some teams that finish third in the division where you have a team in the wild card maybe missing out on a wild card spot in the other conference. Like it's some weird stuff. I understand the division thing too, PJ, because you're trying to again, you want the rivalries, right? You want more Pittsburgh, Washington, Pittsburgh Islanders, Pittsburgh Rangers, Islanders Rangers, Islanders Devils. You want more of those close vicinity rivalries, but again, it also gets to a point where you see the same teams every single year, and I'm not a huge fan of that either, right? Really, until the Cup final, sometimes we see some interesting ones, like last year, Tampa, Colorado. Um, 2 years ago, it was Montreal, Tampa. So or Dallas, Tampa, and Montreal, Tampa. So we've seen some interesting matchups, but I don't know. Yeah, that's a really good argument, though, PJ. I agree. I agree with that too. Because you're also going to play more games against your division, and if you're in a weak division, it's going to be easier to rack up those points. Like, think about the Pacific Division. I don't want to knock the Pacific right now, but I'm going to. I hate to say it. I mean, you should be playing better in the Pacific Division because LA and Anaheim and San Jose are garbage. They were really not that great this season. You really should have been able to get enough points to really use that as an advantage. But yeah, that's true, Surreal. The East versus West Coast, LA versus the Rangers. I do remember that. Yeah, that was a real. I mean, I was happy because the Rangers lost in 5 games, but overall, that was a good series in general too. Jack Hughes is taking over. He did this a lot in Game 7 too. I'm telling you, Carolina's really frustrating. They're just gonna play their game. Yeah, you could see Hughes is a little like, oh man. Carolina's good considering some key players are hurt. Yeah, that's a really good point. And we talked about that in the preview, and that is something to account for. The question was, could Carolina get enough goal scoring depth without Pacioretty, without Teravainen, Svechnikov? I'm missing somebody else, Kasha, and Jack Drury. I don't think came back. So it's been the other guys, right? Marty Necas, obviously Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis. Those guys have stepped up, and Carolina's finding ways to win. Jesper Fast, right? Who scored tonight the first goal? It was his first of the playoffs. So Carolina's just getting depth scoring from everywhere, and that's really allowing them to do what they need to do. Yeah, Brett Pesci, Seth Jarvis, and Kokanyemi getting his first of the playoffs. So those are the guys that you need to see. Jarvis, Kokanyemi, they need to be on the board for Carolina right now. I agree, PJ. I don't like Aho. Again, he did beat the Islanders, but I mean, he scored that clutch goal in game 6 to send that to overtime to give his team a chance to win it in OT. Um, even the way just the last couple of years, he has been very consistently a good player. I totally agree with you, PJ. I think you want to talk about, everybody talks about who's underrated, and everybody says Alexander Barkov. We get it. Barkov's not underrated anymore. I think 2 guys that are really gonna be prominent in this series that are gonna get some attention are Nico Hischier and Sebastian Aho. I think both those guys, each respectively for their teams, are really showing what they're capable of. And, Hischier took a little bit of heat early in his career, took him a little while to get going, right? Didn't have a ton of talent around him, but now we're starting to see him really emerge as one of those guys. And again, same thing for Sebastian Aho. I think both those guys for their teams really good pickups. Um, and the thing with Aho was he wasn't a top 5 pick. I think he was drafted between 15 and 30, something like that. He was a mid first round pick, and he's really playing a lot better than a mid first round pick. Yeah, that's true. Jason Robertson needs to score more. I've been beating that drum forever. Everybody says Dallas has all these goal scorers. Jamie Benn and Tyler Sagan really end up hurting this team most of the time, and I'm kind of doubting them really as much as I think they're going to go on a run. I think 2020 was their real chance to do that. I don't know. Haskinen's playing really good though for Dallas. Miro Haskinen is a beast. There you go. This is what I was talking about. The odd man opportunities. Ooh. Yeah, Jack Hughes, 2 shots and zero scoring chances. Wow. And Jack Hughes almost just got one. That would have been kind of funny, but so let's see if Carolina can hold on to this. I mean, I got to be honest, Carolina doesn't give up leads like this, man. They just don't. I mean, this is why I picked them to win this series. It's not a diss to the Devils. It's just Carolina just has they've done this for years now. Like I can't when you do it for as long as the Hurricanes have been doing this since like what 2019 since they went to the conference final against Boston. They've been doing this every year since Brendan Moore's been in there. It is so frustrating, but this team is really damn good, man. There's Brent Burns. Also, Jack Drury is back on the team. Okay, good. I'm glad he's okay. Yeah, I'm just really shocked that Hughes only has had 2 shots on net. That's pretty again, you wanna talk about defensively sound, that's pretty good there by Carolina, man. Nah, the Islanders didn't fire Lou, PJ. Stop it. Oh, I guess Carolina scored. I just saw it on Twitter. So Carolina is gonna go up 4-1. There you go. That's a bad goal. Bad goal by Vanacek. I get it, it's right at the top of the circle, but I mean, yeah, you can't give that one up. Yeah, this is not good for the Devils, man. So there you go. So Carolina is likely going to take game 1. If there's anybody out there with a slimmer of hope, um yeah, this is it. Man. So Brady Shea's first of the playoffs and he got 18 goals during the regular season. So Brady Shea had a career high season for goals this year. Shout out to Brady Shea. Yeah, this is not a good look here, man. I hope the Devils get one just to get some confidence for some of the younger guys on the team, just to get things going a little bit. But this has really been a tough game, man, for the Devils. It kind of reminds me in a different way, but very similar to what we saw from the first round. I mean, it's different with the Rangers, but definitely not what they wanted. PJ, I don't know where Ali Dash and Morgan are. And I have not been to PNC Arena. Nope. Yeah, so it's 4-1 Carolina Hurricanes right now. They just scored another goal. Um, Brady Shea picking up one there. Yeah, definitely not a good look. The Hurricanes are doing what they do with Rod Brindamore as the coach. Akira Schmid started, and a little after, like the beginning of the second period, Schmid pulled after giving up 3 goals pretty much through barely a first period and a little bit. Um, the Devils came back, made it 3-1, and now in the third period, that next goal was coming. The Devils were aggressive. They were trying to go for it, but Carolina is Carolina, man. And at this point, I just don't see Carolina giving up 3 goals in the next 8 minutes or 6 minutes. That's a really tough task for the Devils. They've got the offense, they have the talent, but yeah, it does not look good here. So Vanacek is taking over from basically the beginning of the second period to this point for the end of the game. Yeah, I wouldn't be that concerned, Surreal. I mean, the problem is it's more, I hate to say it, if Akira Schmid, if this becomes a pat, oh, what was that? 71 on Carolina just laid kind of a cheap shot. Not a fan of that at all. I don't know what that was all about, but um yeah, I hate to say it, it's one of those things that it sucks, but again, you shouldn't be concerned about a series till you lose on home ice. And the last time I checked, the Devils haven't lost on home ice yet in this series. So, and we saw what happened last time. The Devils lost the first 2 at home and they won the series. So, I don't know if the magic has run out of Akira Schmid. That would be my most concerning thing because Carolina's going to shut it down defensively, right? They're going to shut down your offense. We knew that. Carolina's the Devils need to limit their ability to score. That's really what this is going to come down to. I think it's really going to be important for them to just kind of weather the storm, but we'll see. Figuratively, kind of riding out the storm, but we'll see. Yeah, that's and I think everybody thought because of the lack of experience on the Devils that they weren't going to be able to punch back. Um, and they did. They punched back and kind of in a desperate situation at the Garden, won games 3 and 4 and completely wrote back that series in a really, really strong way. Um, and to be honest, they just didn't have an answer. They just didn't have an answer for what the Devils were kind of doing with the speed. They just couldn't counter it. And the Rangers looked very slow. There's been a lot of questions. The question about Joel Quenneville, it sounds like they want Joel Quenneville because he he was a huge factor in Artemi Panarin's development in Chicago before he went to Columbus and inevitably ended up with the Rangers. So I think that's going to be really something to watch for. Um, but like I said, I think this is going to be a series you got to kind of feel the other team out. It's just we saw what the Islanders did trying to feel out Carolina. You go down 2-0. It's going to be tough against the Hurricanes with the way they play. They're exhausting. They're hard to play against. They score goals on the power play. This is a tough team to play against, man. And the big criticism, hey, what's going on, Don? Welcome to the chat. That's all right, Shaka. I hate to say it, the critique for the Rangers now that the season's over is, well, they're able to acquire talent, but they aren't able to build a team. And we're starting to see that those are two separate things. So, I think the Rangers had a really good roster on paper, but they couldn't get it done in the playoffs. I think they rushed the rebuild a little bit. I would agree with that. But again, it's like, do you want to be the Oilers where you're consistently drafting first and second overall every year too? Like, it's one of those things where it's kind of tough. They just dumped a lot of money into Panarin and Truba, though. That's the two that I'm not saying they're going to trade Panarin. I think the easier solution is to get a coach that adapts around Panarin before they ever really consider trading Panarin. Um, but I mean, the problem is I don't see how they'd move a Truba contract. I don't think they'd trade Zibanejad, but I think everything's on the table, honestly, for the Rangers. It's been talk even going back to last year. They looked at Winnipeg's Pierre-Luc Dubois. I wonder if that conversation comes back up again at some point this offseason. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff in the Big Apple for the Rangers. And, I don't know. And Shaka, yeah, I can make you a moderator on Discord. I'll do it when we end the live stream. I'll set that up for you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and guys, make sure to check out our Discord. Um, really good stuff. And Shaka's been really good at kind of running the stuff. So yeah, it's the Goal Line Hockey server. So make sure to check that out if you guys have not already. Best sites to get hockey jerseys. Ooh, I don't know if I want to give that out. Oof. Um, Let me see if I could find it. Hold on, guys. So, sportsk.com. I think that's a Canadian website. Oh, it is a US website. Yeah, I use Sports K is one I really recommend. Sports K. Sometimes you get lucky with eBay. eBay's another one. If you catch jerseys at the right time. This one might surprise some of you, and this one's kind of if you're willing to get a guy that got traded or is no longer on the team, but you really want a really discounted jersey with a name on it. Dick's Sporting Goods. Dick's Sporting Goods clearance jerseys. They run, it's like between $50 to $100. And it's guys that just got traded. As long as you're okay with the number on the back, those are the three I would really recommend before going to Fanatics or the NHLshop.com. Um, those are fine. I buy jerseys from there all the time if I really can't find it, but Sports K, eBay, and and I completely forgot the third one already. But that's what I would do. I think it's more if you're trying to build a jersey collection where you're trying to get like a bunch of different teams, you could kind of grind some out instead of getting every jersey being 200, $300 a piece. You could pick up a 2008 Leafs jersey for 50 bucks. If you want to round out your collection to get every single team, that's kind of the best way to do that. And yes, Fanatics has the new deal with the NHL. They will be the official jersey sponsor, as I throw up in my mouth, the official jersey sponsor of the NHL starting not next season, but 2 seasons from now. Yeah, I am not happy about that one. Very disappointing. So Carolina with the net empty looks like they're going to score. So there you go. So Jesper Fast puts it away. It's 5-1 Carolina. And yeah, 5-1 looks familiar. That's right. Oh man, Shaka, I would have picked up the Bridgeport Islanders white fisherman for you. I've seen them in person. And what's cool is in the actual sleeve on the stripe, it actually says Islanders on it, like Bridgeport Islanders on the wave on the sleeve. It is really, really nice. It reminds me a lot of the Sharks. Um, that Silicon Valley jersey. What is it? Like the black stealth jersey. It's got some really interesting um details in it. But unfortunately, Shaka, the only place I found it is at the NHL as at the Islanders shop. You might be able to get it online at the Islanders shop, but that is the only place that I've seen it available. Yeah, you're right, Don. I think Don's right, guys. Yeah, I mean, they just did not look ready to play. I'm kind of cheering for the Devils. I'd like to see the closer local team get in. Um, those Devils fans have been waiting a really long time. They've been through a really rough rebuild. Um, you know, it is what it is. Carolina, this is what Carolina does, man. This is how they beat the Islanders. This is how they had the success they had in 2019. This is just what they do. Really, really tough group. And shout out to, I know that they've got the staff there with Don Waddell and stuff, but Ron Francis really built that mentality of a good defense first. And once they set up the defense in Carolina, everything else kind of fell from there, right? Then you started picking up the Ahos and the Svechnikovs. And, now you've started to bring in depth with guys like Jarvis coming out of the pipeline, trading for guys like Jesper Kakanyemi, getting veterans, right? Like Derek Stepan and Brady Shea and having your own homegrown veterans like Jordan Stahl. Carolina, man, I don't know if they're going to win the cup this year, but they're definitely going to give teams fits. And if they're going to leave their mark and they end up getting eliminated, they will leave a scar on whoever they would lose to. This is a really tough team. So let me know your guys' final thoughts here as we're in the final minute of the third period. The Devils lose 5-1 in game one in Carolina. We're in the final minute here. Jack Hughes, very limited opportunities. Same thing for Heishier. Um, Only 2 shots on net for Hughes. Just a tough game overall for them. Yeah, Shaka, that's not surprising. The Canes fans are very I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of some of them. They were actually saying stuff about Matt Martin and his wife and his family. So I'm honestly I'm not too happy with the Hurricane fans right now. Again, that doesn't mean it's all of them, but some of them were pretty brutal. Um, and Devils fans too have been very high and mighty after beating the Rangers, which is definitely they should be. But I think we're starting to see like, oh shit, now we got to move on. We're in the second round now. We gotta get down and play. All right, so that's it, guys, for our live stream. 5-1 is the final for the Hurricanes. And that's it. Solid win for Carolina. I'll probably see you guys again later this week. I don't know necessarily when quite yet. But I'm really glad you guys joined us. Thank you, PJ, for the super chats. He jumped in and gave us a couple super chats. Um, and hopefully the Devils get it back in game two because the Devils, the Hurricanes, they're gonna give you a fight. But I think now with the Devils, all right, they know what they're up against. They've seen it now. Now they're gonna need to make the adjustments. But it's tough because the Islanders couldn't figure out Carolina the entire first round. But again, they also didn't have the talent that the Devils had. So I think the Devils have the scoring. They have the fast, speedy guys. If this becomes a back and forth, breakaway after breakaway each way, I think that's in favor of the Devils. But at this point, Carolina played their game and they get a couple opportunities and they score on them and they make you pay for it. So that's it for tonight's stream, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Of course, I will see you guys again next time. Peace.